Guest in. It's Mr. Darrell Skiles. Hello, Mr. Skiles. How are you? It's hard
morning.
I have a bad habit of almost saying something else, but I didn't.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
really close.
Good morning, Stan.
Well, good morning
It's
to you,
great
sir.
to be back.
Well, it's great
to be
to have you
back in
here.
the saddle again.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Oh, Gene Autry.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better.
1939. Yeah, to go back to that.
Is that when that was? 1939. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Anyway, kind of fun, and we'll have some fun with that.
Right. Well, I'm back in the saddle again.
Well,
yeah.
it's good. It's good to have you back in, sir. But we're doing something a little bit different. You're not doing that other thing that you were doing. So.
Right. Well, you know what? When every door closes, another one opens, or sometimes a door opens, so therefore it's time to close the door. So that's kind of what we ran into. So anyway, I had an opportunity, and I talked about this a little bit when I was back before. I was presiding commissioner before in the last program that I done. There, I talked about this, that I had an opportunity presented to me. I had a lot of things going on that was demanding more of my time, and the folks at South Central Regional Stockyards at Vienna, Missouri. I had worked as a field representative for South Central Regional Stockyards for quite some time.
So you've been associated with them a long time.
Yes, before I became presiding commissioner, I worked as a field representative for South Central Stockyards. Would work at the sale, help out in the country, help arrange trucking, and so on, and I would still go up sometimes if I had a Wednesday that was free and no meetings, which
very rare.
A new presiding commissioner will find that out. But anyway, I'd still go up here over the years and help on sale days on Wednesdays if they had a big sale and things. And but I found out very quickly when I became presiding commissioner years ago that there was no way that I could go ahead and continue to work as a field rep for them down here. There's one or the other was going to suffer, so I wouldn't do that. So, but at any rate, the opportunity came to me to go ahead and go back to doing that, and so along with some other things going on, and as we talked about before, I had some other things going on as far as folks that I'm responsible for and take care of that were demanding more and more time. So I made that change, and I very much did enjoy that previous 16 years as presiding commissioner. I'm very proud of a lot of stuff we got done, but I'm really looking forward to being back in the saddle again.
There you go.
Back in the saddle again with South Central Regional Stockyards as a field rep once again. So I visited with you, Stan, about us doing a radio program maybe here a couple of times a month. Be sponsored by, paid for by South Central Regional Stockyards at Vienna. And if folks don't know where that's at, it's when you come up 63 into Vienna, you turn on Highway 42 towards Lake of the Ozarks, and South Central Stockyards is right there on the very edge. And I'd be willing to bet that 90% of the people listening to this program or more who have livestock know exactly where the South Central's at. It's
I'm sure, yeah.
One of the premier livestock markets in this whole southern part of the state. And we get cattle at South Central Stockyards from all over, from of course that's Marys County where they're at. But we get cattle from up in the Jeff City area, from all the way over in the New Haven, Washington County, Franklin County area, and all the way west then over to Miller County and Pulaski County. Of course, Phelps County, Crawford County, down here, some in northern part of Texas County, Dent County, some from Shannon, Iron, a few from Reynolds County, Crawford County. So anyway, I'll be, in my capacity, I'll just be working as a representative for the stockyards and be helping people in whatever capacity I can with their livestock, cattle, particularly cattle marketing, either marketing needs or if they're in the market to buy some cattle. And many times I've been able to help people get cows bought or get feeders bought that they wanted to get. I do some. I'm not in this for the trucking. We've got some great guys locally here that do a lot of hauling for the barn, but if somebody needs some help or assistance in marketing cattle, I'll help in whatever capacity that I can, and we'll get her done, as they say. So
South Central's been a great supporter of Dan County. They've been at the FFA auction. They've been buying animals for years and years and years. And Darrell, a lot of people here, as you mentioned, use South Central Regional, and they got a very good reputation.
Exactly. Yes, we do. I've been very proud over the years to work with the fellows. South Central Regional Stockyards is owned by Dave Patton and his sons Ross Patton and Bill Patton, and they're a great family and a good, straight, as honest a folks as you could ever want to deal with, and of course, Dave Patton originally came from out in the western Kansas area, Kansas, Oklahoma area. He'd been involved in livestock marketing all of his life, really, all of his adult life, and got involved actually years ago, even I think in some video livestock marketing, and then had the opportunity to buy into South Central Stockyards. I don't know, I guess maybe 30 years ago, something like that.
Time flies.
Yep. And so they've been there ever since. And his boys were raised right there at Vienna, and now his grandkids and all are there. Got a whole passel of grandkids. I don't even know how many grandkids Dave Patton has now. Way more than I do. I got 6 now, but he's got way more than that with between the 3 boys.
I got his own football team ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. So at any rate, so the point of our program here is I just want a chance here every couple of times a month to come in, talk about kind of what's going on in the market, and give folks some ideas about what's going on and what they might be thinking about as far as marketing their cattle. I plan on having some special guests come in here with us, Stan, and
Sure.
talk about not just about marketing. I don't want this just to be a commercial or an ad commercial for the stockyards, but I want it to be this program to be something be of interest to local livestock producers and agriculture people in this area. You know, agriculture in the state of Missouri, Stan, it's arguably the single largest industry in the state. Now, some argue that tourism is, but under agriculture, you have to also take in the timber industry, because many of our farms also have timber.
That's true.
And it's part of that farm income on that. So for sure, when you take in the timbering industry and lump that in with agriculture, you know, the livestock industry, cattle, hogs, sheep, goats, those miscellaneous things, and then along with the crops, you know, Missouri, agriculture is without a doubt the number one industry in the state of Missouri. Within agriculture, probably the largest segment, it would be the cattle industry, the beef cattle industry. You know, it's amazing that Missouri ranks usually at least always third in the nation, behind only Texas and Oklahoma in the number of cows, beef cows in the state. And sometimes we're second. And I wouldn't doubt that we might be second now with all the drought that occurred over the last 2 or 3 years or so. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas, and parts of Colorado and New Mexico. The cow numbers are way down, which is an exciting time of opportunity for those of us in the cow-calf business. Cow numbers are at their lowest point since going back to, I think, around 2014 or something like that, or maybe back before that. Now, you know, the interesting part about that is because of improvements in breeding and genetics and so on, we're able to produce more beef with a given number of cows than what we used to, but still the numbers are great. But getting back to what I was talking about, you know, Missouri is one of the leading states in the entire nation in the production of feeder calves. And South Missouri here, where we're at, it's cow country. That's just the way it is. You drive up and down the roads, wherever you're going to see cows on either side of the roads. And we having a bunch of calves. Some people will calve year round, but predominantly people will calve in the spring, like right now. And myself, I calve a good bit in the spring, or they'll calve in the fall. More people will calve in the fall. So you have a couple of different seasons for calf crops. But, you know, interestingly enough, there's some of those feeder cattle, when we sell them, will go, will stay somewhere in Missouri, but predominantly the bulk of our feeder cattle, we are an exporter of feeder cattle, and our feeder cattle will go in the fall of the year. They'll go to Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, some to Illinois, but predominantly Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, for different things. And this time of year, there'll be some of these cattle that we sell that we go into Kansas to the blue stem pastures, and people may not realize what a cattle growing region that is. They're just in that east central part of Kansas, all the blue stem pastures, and it's a huge market for the right size cattle to go to those pastures this time of year. Other times of year in the winter, in the fall, cattle will be going on further on to West Kansas into the wheat country to graze that wheat. And you know, it's a different thing than what we're used to. You know, that wheat will actually produce a better wheat crop if it's grazed off. It stools out and produces a better wheat crop if they have ample moisture and the wheat's growing good. Hey, them cattle will gain 3 pounds a day or better on that good wheat. And then actually the wheat itself is better and produces. So you have that. We have farmer feeders that have corn. Many of these farmer feeders will market their corn, or big feedlots that are in the middle of grain country. Those feedlots are the feed selling business, okay? And they sell that feed through cattle. And,
That's right.
And, you know, depending on what the price of cattle is, fat cattle, market-ready cattle, that's what dictates the price of feeders. But it's also dictated by the price of corn, because that comes into play as to what the cost of gain will be. So there's all kinds of factors that come into play as to what feeder cattle are worth and so on. And, you know, we have lots of farmer feeders that we have lots of buyers that buy cattle for farmer feeders going to Iowa, some to Illinois, but Iowa, Nebraska, particularly Nebraska, some of our highest dollar cattle that we'll sell will be going to for feedlots in the Nebraska region, and some to the Kansas areas too. And some, and I don't know, there may be some even go to some of the feedlots in Colorado. I'm not sure about that, but at any rate, the bulk of our cattle are going to go west and north, and that's where our cattle go. Now there's some, like I say, there's some stay. You know, now of course the cow market. You know, the slaughter cow market, there's cow kill plants everywhere. We've got a brand new cow killing plant being built now just up in west of St. Louis. Going to be a major cow meat processing facility, which is great news for Missouri producers. And so it's just an exciting time for the cattle business.
Darrell, people forget, and I'm sure if maybe who are novices or maybe new to the area, that years ago you had the Kansas City Stockyards and the East St. Louis Stockyards, the two largest stockyards in the United States at the time. And, of course, due to a lot of government regulations, they basically were forced to shut down because they couldn't update the facilities that greatly. And, of course, then the system of, you know, you had a lot more EPA. You had a lot more thinking, we got too much methane. We got this. I mean, everything that you can imagine came out, unfortunately, for those stockyards. But at the same time, my father's in the wholesale meat distributorship. In St. Louis alone, there were 10 plants, 10 processing plants in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Now, we're not talking out in the country. I'm talking in St. Louis.
Wow.
And people, they say, well, that's not possible. I'm going to tell you, one of the largest was Cry Packing Company. And Cry Packing Company was known for their hams, known for their beef, it was Cry hot dogs. That's all you ever got at Busch Stadium for years and years and years. Well, unfortunately, by government regulations, they got shut down over time because the St. Louis stockyards had to go by the wayside. Well, you don't have any feeders going into those plants. So when you're telling me about a new plant coming outside St. Louis, music to my ears, because I watched a lot of great people lose their jobs over government regulations back in the 70s, going into the 80s, and it was a shame when all that went down, because I had an opportunity as a young man to go to East St. Louis Stockyards just to see how it was done, and it was pretty amazing. They had 700 trucks every day that went through that stockyard. 700 livestock producers, at least, if not more, or at least 700 trucks coming in. And the amount of cattle that went through there, Darrell, was amazing. Each of the packing processing plants that we're talking about had their own trucks that they would buy a lot. They would take them and immediately take them over to their slaughter facility inside St. Louis, slaughter the truck, and send another truck back for another round. It was an amazing process.
You know, I never did get down there. I never did get down there to St. Louis or to Kansas City to see the stockyards firsthand personally, but I've heard a lot of stories about it, and quite an amazing set of industry that was going on right there, and what was built around that. And as you say, and you know, it's all changed and stuff. And for out here in the country, it's changed too. You know, I mean, back years ago, the order buyers would scour the countryside trying to buy this group of calves and this group of calves to take them to St. Louis, or mostly to St. Louis or to Kansas City, and you know, that's how they made a living. And then we got into more of the regional livestock markets like South Central things, and that work at. And so it's fairly easy, you know, within an hour, generally within an hour from the time we load a bunch of calves up here on a farm here, we can have them unloaded at the stockyards, and they've got we have great pens with feed, water, and can take care of them. And then and the Stockyards job is basically to provide the spot where sellers and buyers can get together.
Congregate,
We can run the we take care of the cattle and run them into the ring, and you've got a buyer sitting up there on the seats, and they're representing those feedlots, those farmer feeders and things from all across the country. And generally those buyers that are buying them, they're not the guy that's going to own them. They're being paid just a commission or so much to buy cattle, but they know what they're doing, and I'm going to tell you, they're very, very good at it. Those guys that do that for a living, they can look at animals and they'll know their weight without looking at the scales, pretty much pretty close what they weigh and so on. And it's an interesting business, and it's really a business now. I feel like anyway of some of the best people in the world to work with, deal with. They're just good, honest, hard-working people, and it's a fair price. They go to bidding, and hey, highest bidder will get them, and then on they go, and then they're loading them up on trucks. And these days the pot tractor trailer, the semi trailer, we call them pot loads of calves. Those buyers generally are trying to get pot loads of calves at a time. Very few people out here in the country, and actually have, by the time you separate the steers from the heifers, and then you try to size them up. I mean, the buyers have specific orders for specific sizes of cattle. Very few people out here would have, a pot load of cattle is going to weigh roughly 50,000 pounds. So, that'd be right at 100 to 500 pound calves. Well, very few people are going to have 100, 500 pound that weigh within 10 or 15 pounds of 500 pounds,
Right.
So we all have, myself, if I send calves up, I'll have 15, 20, 25, maybe 30 calves at a time, but that's a mix of steers and heifers. So, I'll never sell a pot load of calves myself, probably ever. But we've got buyers there that are buying, they'll buy 2, 3, 6 at a time that match what they're looking for.
Right.
Now they'd love to buy a pot load at a time if they can get them, and that always helps. And many times you'll see in the price, and I'll go over some of the prices here for the last couple of weeks. And I want to do that when we do this program there, kind of highlight what's going on in the market. It's a real exciting time right now in the market for us price-wise, because of the fact that numbers are so favorable for us. Things look pretty good on the grain side. Another factor that comes into play, of course, is the cost of feeding these cattle. The cost of feeding a steer from 500 or 600 pounds to get him up to a finished weight of 1,200 to 1,400 pounds, that's a lot of grain. And as corn gets higher, then the cost of that gain goes up. And that means, there's only so much that they can sell those finished animals for. So they factor that in, and they have to try to figure out what's the maximum they can pay for a feeder calf and still possibly make a profit on those cattle as they go out. But
it's a science and an art, isn't it? It really is.
And we're going to talk about this as we do this program. There's a lot of things that we can do right down here on the farm with our cattle to enhance our position, to get some of those better prices.
You're talking locally right here.
Locally here. Yep. That's my only goal in this, actually, is to just help the local producers get their cattle marketed, but to help the local producers get their cattle marketed for as much as possible and get their full value. The feeder cattle business and the cow-calf business in Dent County is a major part of the economy of Dent County. And so the more people make on their cattle here in this county, then that's the more money they've got to spend right here locally. And so going back to my previous job, our local economy is still what my interest is, and making it work.
And to see the amount of cart tax that came in, it was 18,000 more than it was last year.
That's what I heard.
When you start to think about that kind of change, and of course, cart tax, we know it's just a set price off gasoline.
Right.
You start thinking that you've got a lot of traffic coming through town. People
now, there is a slight increase in that due to the increase in the state tax.
That was 2 cents, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
But
still reflecting a large increase in gallons being used.
But also, too, you start looking at year to date, though, Darrell, that's nice to see that increase. You were part of that budget to put it together. You guys have always, the commission always was very conservative, because you just never know.
That's right.
And when you start thinking that right now, 3 months in, you're $42,000 ahead of the pace that you had set in 2022 on cart tax. That wasn't affected by the sales tax issue. That sounds pretty good, and you're hoping it continues in that direction. So,
sure.
But the more we have coming through people to do business, to visit, to tour, whatever it might be, those all play a big part in it. And a lot of our producers have people that come in that work at these farms, that do different things. They don't always live in Dane County. They come in.
Right,
and that's a big part of this too.
And it's a major business, part of the business here. We have the local MFA down here. Still, we have the Purina dealer, the Dane County Feed Farm Supply out on the corner, and you've got the 72 Farm Center on out there. These people are in business that's serving the needs of the local farmers and the gardeners and everybody else, but.
Sure.
The driver there really are the local farmers and things, and so the more. And even to some degree, your hardware stores, Walmart, Roberts Judson, our lumber people. These people, I have to go down there and get stuff to rebuild my corral sometimes, redo fencing. There's just it's
Better
just
watch
part
out doing that.
Caught up with me there.
Yeah,
one day.
it did.
But it all works together as part of that whole total economy of the area, and the more. And you know what? The whole thing is, I can tell you this, the way it works. The more the local farmer gets as far as his cattle and his things, that money will be reinvested in the farm some way, somehow, because the fact is, if you don't, Uncle Sam figures out a way to get a big chunk of it. So you might as well. And I mean, or they'll, acquire some more land or rent some more ground and expand herds or buy new equipment. And that's part of it, too. It takes more equipment, takes trucks, trailers, everything. It all works together. So my only goal is, hey, I'll do whatever I can to help those local producers get more for their get more money in their pocket after the calves have sold and the cows.
So I just want to touch on it for some of the listeners out there who may not have ever done any kind of farm work, or maybe never even been on a farm in their life, Darrell. And they say, well, what's the big deal? Well, you can explain this a lot better than I can. You have a pen, you go in, you put your fence up, so that's one thing. Like you mentioned, your corral, that's another. Barns, feeders, different things. All this costs a lot of money when you do cattle, and you want to get the best price for cattle because you reinvest that back into new fencing, into feeders, hay,
trucks,
different things of that, trucks, corrals. A lot of that money. That's why when you maximize that, if you don't maximize the price you get for your cattle, you can't make those improvements. And those improvements, sometimes Mother Nature makes you make those improvements.
That's
It
right.
does cost you quite a bit at that time, because we all know in Dane County we have a lot of water runoff. Sometimes it can wash your fence out. Sometimes you have a tree fall on that can knock your fence down, or fence just breaks down over time.
Right.
Deterioration.
Yep. That's right. And just an example of that, I've got a water gap right now that is out that I've got to fix, and I'm looking at what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going somewhere here in town to get some cable and clamps, and I'm going to put some cable across, and I'm going to buy probably some cattle panels, a couple of cattle panels, and I'm going to probably buy some steel sheeting from somebody in here town close here that sells that, and I'm going to try to replace that with a water gap that will rise and fall with the water so that it doesn't wash out every time. That's my goal sometime this spring, summer, before we get back in the wet season again. For right now, it's just going to have to stay out. I moved the cattle out. But at any rate, that's what it all comes back to.
Sure.
And,
it's reinvesting your profits.
Yeah. So for right now, where we're at right now is we're kind of in, as far as in the cattle marketing thing, as far as in these feeder cattle, this is really kind of a I'd call it a bit of a lull time right now, in that yearling cattle. When I say yearling cattle, the spring calves, the fall-born calves from back in 2021, fall yearlings, they've been gone quite a while. Spring calves that were weaned, spring of 22 calves that were weaned last year and kept around through the fall and the winter. A good many of them have already been marketed, and right now what we're getting ready to get into is the marketing of these calves that were born last fall and things, and that's what I've got some of those myself. So we're looking at that. This is kind of an in-between time right now, but right now the market is extremely good, and it looks like it's going to be extremely good here for us for the next year or two or three or four, depending on how fast producers build back their cattle herds. But they know that because of the liquidation of herds west of us and west and northwest of us, because of the droughts and things, it's going to be a bit of a time before some of those herds will ever get back built back up what they were. And if they're going to get built back up, they'll have to retain hold heifers, or heifers will have to be taken out of the meat stream to be made cows out of, which further reduces the meat supply. Which, and the flip of that, the consumer only has so much money to spend on food and meats and things, and so you get into worrying, will they switch to other cheaper things? And then also, of course, the state of the economy plays a huge role in this thing too. If the economy would turn south, why things will slow down pretty quickly. But at any rate, it looks real good. And right now we're getting ready to line up we got a lot of great producers that are getting lined up and ready to start marketing their fall-born calves from last year. And some of them have already been weaned. Some of them will be sold off the cows and stuff. So anyway, it's an exciting time really to be in, especially with grass finally getting here.
Yeah,
we always get anxious for grass in the spring. Spring's here. I've been watching turkeys strutting and gobbling and hearing them, and so it's an exciting time of year just for that. But it's a real exciting time right now in the cattle business as a whole, with the prospects that we have of getting some pretty good prices where hopefully some bills and some debts can be paid, and investments made in the farm and in our operations and things.
So tell us a little bit about some of the pricing, if you would.
Well, okay,
maybe just to give some people an idea of what this is all about.
Right. Yeah. Let me get here. Our last sale this last week, there was about 700 head, and I'm going to be quoting prices here that come from the U.S. Department of Agriculture through the Missouri Department of Agriculture's marketing service up at South Central. I mean, we don't come up with these prices on our own so that they can look good or better or whatever. This is a market report that's put together by a market news service gentleman who is sitting there in the sale, and he's been trained in market reporting and looking at things. And just for instance, here at our last sale just this past week, feeder steers under 550 pounds were $3 to $6 higher, and heifers under 550 were $3 to $10 higher. We didn't have that many really that were over 550 pounds, but of the ones that we had, it had a higher undertone on that market as well, and that's exactly how he put it. And the gentleman, he mentioned here that the market is stronger with cattle futures this week. When you look on the CME Chicago
Board of Trade,
Board of Trade, and the market mercantile exchange. CME is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for feeder cattle and fat cattle. The futures price on them is up across the board on out for the out months. So that's looking good. There's large advances in that. And again, it's being based on numbers and supplies and things. Things are looking good on planting intentions for corn across the country, which is always a good to see that people intend to plant more corn, and which helps kind of moderate that price on the grain, again, on the cost. So that gives them optimism. The price is up on live fat cattle, when I call them fat cattle, market cattle, on the futures. So, those people that are in that business are constantly playing that deal, locking in this price on those cattle. Therefore, they'll lock in this price on feeder cattle and their grains and to make it all work. That's all an area that's way over my head, but I know that's what comes into play on what our feeder cattle bring. So, but just to give some ideas, on these feeder steers, these medium and large one steers, for an average weight of 586 pounds, we had an average price of $226.83. Had a range of 224 to 234 on those cattle, weighing 550 to 595. Okay. That's some prices that we hadn't seen for a while. Now that was for about 30 head total. But just to show you here, we had just 3 head here weighing 590. Just 3 head weighed 590, and yet they brought $1.90, and it had a note here that those were unweaned cattle. Had nothing done. They just pulled off the cow, weighed 590 pounds. Those were probably some, I'd say some summer calves, something like that from last year, early fall calves. And the feeder heifers, the medium large, number one muscle calves, for instance, 550 to 590 pound heifers, and $1.92 to $2.04. And again, those are some prices that we hadn't seen for several years, going back to around 2014, 15, or 16 to get back in those price numbers there. So it's looking very nice. And then, of course, we also have a very active, a good cow market with buyers buying cows. Cows, the cow market will pretty much be broken down into 3 types of cows. You have generally your higher selling cows will generally be your what they call their breakers, and what that is, it has to do with how they dress out. You have breaker boners, and then your lean cows, and that'll just be your thinner, lighter cows that just aren't going to cut out very much. By the time you take the hide off and the meat and the bones, you don't have that much.
Not much left.
You have a pretty low dressing percentage. A higher dressing percentage, obviously, the higher they're going to bring. But even with the weigh cow market, even for these cows going to slaughter, now on these bigger cows or breakers, you're looking at some 1,500-pound cows bringing 98 cents. Another 1,500-pound cows bringing $1.03 a pound. But even on the lean cows, you're looking at 70s, up in the 70s and 80 cents a pound, even for those. And that's going to be some of your older broken mouth cows and things that are going to be very lean. The slaughter bulls the same way. You're looking at slaughter bulls now. A large slaughter bull weighing 2,000 pounds may bring $2,200. Well, what that does is at least gives a person a chance, if they're selling, an older bull, 6 or 7 years old, and somewhere around that 6, 7, 8 years old, you're going to probably move him out of the herd. It gets to be iffy if he's going to get the job done covering all the cows and breeding. But if you can get $2,000 out of him, that gives you the opportunity to go ahead and spend a little more money and buy maybe some even better quality bulls, young bulls, and put back, and those will make you more money down the road.
Reinvesting, like we already talked about.
But, one of the things I wanted to just mention, I was looking here at a market report, even dating back earlier in March. And the market report, he always makes some notes out here. He'll make some notes whether the calves are unweaned or whether they're fleshy. But one of the things that he'll note here would be on the value added, okay? And just for an instance, here was from the same day, okay, just for an instance, here was some cattle weighing 570. They were unweaned, and they brought $1.82. That still was a pretty decent price for a 570-pound unweaned calf. But here was some weighing 560, just 4 head. Now, we're not talking about a pot load. People think, well, the only way you get the most money is if you got a pot load. Well, it really isn't necessarily true. If you've got the right kind of cattle that match up with cattle that are being put on the pot, they'll buy 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 at a time.
Sure.
Here's 4 head, though. Now, I said $1.82 on some that weighed 570. Here's 4 head that weighed 560. They brought $2.54. Same type, quality, but the note over here was value added, and that's the one thing I want to mention there. And you're going to hear me talk about this all the time when I'm giving market report. Value added means those calves were probably weaned. I don't have the notes, but I can guarantee you those calves were probably weaned, and they had a full health program behind them. By health program, I'm talking about a vaccination program. And I'll have a guest on here to talk about that some more. But by vaccination program, South Central, we have a certification program for a vaccination program. It's called StarVac, and we have a green tag program for calves that are going to be sold right off the cow unweaned, but we supply the tags for the people. It's a green tag for StarVac. That means that calf has had the full round of all the respiratory vaccinations for IBR, BVD, PI3, BRSV, along with Haemophilus somnus vaccination, blackleg, and pneumonia vaccination. They have to have had those in order to qualify for that. It's a huge help for them calves if they've had that vaccination program. If you're going to wean and you got the ability to wean your calves, and especially in the fall of the year, I'd tell anybody, if you can wean your calves, your spring-born calves, if you can wean them September or October, get them weaned and get 2 rounds of those shots, with the second round being a modified live virus for IBR, BVD, PI3. They fall under the Red StarVac program. Red StarVac program is for calves that have been weaned at least 45 days, have had 2 rounds of all the shots, and the heifers can be guaranteed open. In other words, get your bulls pulled out from them. Those are the cattle that fall under that value added. But you can see right there, you had basically right at a 70 cents a pound difference between those value added calves and 180. $2.54 for value added $1.80. Now that's kind of an extreme example, but it was right here in the market report where the market report had put it. We had down here another. Now this wasn't quite as extreme, but we had some 640 pounders at $2.28 value added. whereas some that were 634 with nothing written beside it were 217. But you're still talking about 10, 11, 12 cents a pound on a 650 pound calf. You take 10 cents a pound, that's $65 a head. You can easily pay for all that vaccine. You can wean them. If you'll wean them, keep them around 45 days, they'll weigh more too. And there's some great feeds at all three of the I mentioned MFA, the Purina dealer, Nick County Farm Supply, 72 Farm Center. They all have great feeds that you can wean calves on that will do well and things. It takes a little management. It takes a little, takes a lot. It can be a stressful time when you're weaning a bunch of calves.
I'm sure.
I think I always say it's more stressful on me than it is on the calves. But but at any rate, but even if you're selling them right off the cow, if somebody wants, I've got a supply of the green and red Starback calves. Tags at home. We supply them at no cost. We do expect if we give the producers the tags that they will send the calves to us to the barn. And if they put tags in all of the calves and they decide to keep some heifers, that's not an issue. Don't worry about that. We're not worried about producers keeping calves back to make heifers out of that have our red tags or green tags. It's almost a badge of honor we see when we see cows, out there that were vaccinated and put in the health program when they were calves. So anyway, I did want to mention that, and I'll probably mention that about a little bit of that about every deal, because I do think it's one of the other thing is basically cutting your bull calves, get them castrated. The difference between a steer calf and a bull calf is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 cents a pound, just roughly, or more. So, you're talking about $100. And so I always say about the best thing you can do on a value-added tool is know how to use a knife and get her done. And be honest, the buyers would rather bull calves be castrated with a knife rather than banded. But a lot of people will band and do that. They'll let them get a little bigger before they castrate or whatever, or they'll band them then, and that's okay if you do it right. But I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the problem sometimes with band is sometimes they won't get both of the testicles down below the band, and they still end up with a bull calf in the middle of the bunch. So when they've been cut with a knife, you got them.
Yeah, they're done.
There ain't no mistaking it. Yeah. You got her done.
It's hard to replace.
So anyway, that's it. That's kind of. And again, as I say, when I'm talking about these prices, and we also have a great replacement cow market at Vienna as well. If somebody's going to sell out, we have people interested in buying from all over Missouri, all over the country for cows, especially replacement cows and things. If you go to the South Central Regional Stockyards website too, you can see up in one deal there'll be a note for DV auction. The sale is broadcast live via the internet. There's buyers that buy cattle via the internet. I know people right down here that have bought cattle to come back here and if you just click on that DV auction, you'll get the directions on how to get registered to just either watch the sale, or you can go ahead and get all the information to them so that you're registered and able to buy live during the sale. And if you sell cattle and you can't make it to the sale and you want to see them sell, why you can tune in there through the DV auction and see your cattle sell. And there's been times when I'll be back in the barn working every sale, getting cattle out, and if I know producers have got cattle there, I do my best to try to help them. Especially when I know when the producers are there and things, or I'll tell producers, let me know when they're coming up. You can't sell if you've got typically if we got 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 head, that sale is going to run from. We'll get started a little bit about 10 in the morning, and to be quite honest, we'll be selling the heart of them cattle all the way through till 4 or 5, 6 o'clock that evening, and buyers will be sitting there picking them off, and those buyers, and the buyers, when they hear that the more cattle there, the more they like to be able to come and get, because they can fill more orders and so on. And
right.
I've seen some of the highest priced cattle sell in the early part of the sale. I've seen some of the highest priced cattle sell in the middle part of the sale, and I've seen some cattle bring up ridiculous prices in the last part of the sale, as buyers had several different orders with partial loads on trucks.
There you go.
And then they start bidding wars a little bit to get 2, 3, 5, half a dozen head bought to finish out that load. So you never know. But I'll if I'm back here in the barn, and I try to see who all's got what cattle there as far as folks down here that I know, and if they'll let me know, then that'll help me find them and get them out and take care of them. And if I know they're coming, I'll tell them, don't be in a great big rush. I mean, we'll have a lot of cattle will come to our barn. Our sales on Wednesday, we'll have a lot of cattle come up even over the weekend. We've got big outside lots and traps that we can put them in and feed and take care of them. We've got good inside pens that we can take care of. Lots of cattle will show up Mondays and Tuesdays. If we're having a big sale, we'll typically have 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 head of cattle in the barn by Tuesday evening, and the rest. And if I'd tell anybody if they're going to sell a good-sized bunch of cattle, a trailer load or so, why, you're better to get them up there the evening before. Because for one thing, the guys, we can go back there and they'll get those cattle sorted up, and especially if it's a bigger bunch, get them sorted into even lots and have an idea of what's what. And then they're on the phone with buyers, telling the buyers what they have got, how many, and of this type and so on and so forth. And it just all works to the seller's advantage to have more information.
If you have what the buyers are looking for, they'll be there.
That's right. Yeah. So if they tell them what we got, then that helps. And anyway, and the fact of the matter is, sale starts at 10, and you can, when you're trying to have the sale going on while people are still bringing cattle in, it can kind of get things clogged up and be a little difficult. But we'll make it work. I mean, I've helped people get cattle up on the sale day. And my number is 573-308-5415. If there's anything I can do to help folks, let me know. And I haven't made any cards up yet, but I will be making some up and have them scattered around. But about anybody who knows me knows how to get a hold of me. And
one way or another, right?
If you don't, but again, it's 573-308-5415, or you can call South Central Stockyards at 422-3305 at any time. Look them up on the internet and their website. I have the numbers there for all of us. And if you've got a bunch of cattle you're thinking about moving or selling and want an idea what they, what, I'm not, the guys that own the barn up there, the Patton boys and their dad Dave, they can look at your cattle on the farm, give you a way better idea as to what their actual weights are, probably than what you, the producer, can. I always underestimate mine. They just always look like they're smaller until I get them in the lot. Those guys, that's what they do every day, all day, every day, and they're good at it. And again, and we've got some other guys here. We've got some other folks from right here in Dent County that come to the sale too, and we'll all do whatever we can to help the local producers. I don't work on a commission. I don't get nothing like that. I just work with the barn to try to help the producers down here and help get things. If we need to coordinate trucking, I need to help get a bunch of cattle loaded and get things done. That's my job.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
We'll have
but if somebody's also looking for cattle,
that's right.
Get in touch with you as well.
Yes, if you're wanting some feeder calves to background for a while, let me know. What I will probably do is I will set you up with the guys at the barn, or with a buyer there at the barn who does that for a living. What they do, and you will get that excellent professional service in getting that done. It's a very reasonable cost to have somebody buy them for you and get that done. Or if you're looking for cows, now I have before gone up. Actually in the ring during the cow sale and bought cows for people who are wanting good cows or young cows, bred cows and things to come back home here and things. I've bought several over the years for folks and gotten that arranged. We can get the trucking arranged and so on. And been in the middle of that. That's, always enjoyed it. And, I told somebody when I told them I was leaving my former job and doing this, I said, well, I'm just a dumb old cowboy at heart. I'm not all that comfortable if I don't have a pair of pair of boots. Well, you've probably never seen me without boots on anyway, Stan.
I don't think I ever have.
I did do the marathon without boots on here.
Well, that is true.
Last year, but at any rate, I'm more comfortable in a pair of boots and a pair of Wranglers with a little green cow manure splattered on them somewhere. So I was out in the pasture checking some heifers this morning. I'm waiting for my last heifers to get done calving. But that's what I'm doing now. I'm proud to represent South Central Regional Stockyards at Vienna. Again, their number is 422-3305. or if I can help you in any way, why, my number is 573-308-5415. And I'll have a special guest on here. I already have somebody lined up.
In a couple of weeks, right?
In a couple of weeks. Yeah, we're still getting this worked out, but I'm thinking, Stan, it looks like maybe second and fourth Fridays maybe will work for us to do this about 9 in the morning. And but I have a guest lined up here. I'm gonna probably lean on some of our extension folks sometimes to help with things, because they delve in a lot of areas that we all need to know about. And this is getting to be the time of year that we need to start spraying brush. I'm getting ready to start spraying a bunch of brush, try to kill some buckbrush, rose bushes, and various sundry other stuff. And Gatlin Bunton is the agronomist, university agronomist, works out of the Steelville office. But I talked to him, and he'll probably be on the radio with us in a couple of weeks to talk about some of these things that people need to be thinking about as they get ready to spray the brush, because that time is coming here real fast.
Very soon.
Yep. And then
won't take long.
And then we'll have some others talk about various health issues, different things. Who knows? I might even have a politician on the air with me sometime.
Oh my goodness!
Talk about ag issues. We're not going to get into politics too much, but if we have to, we will. But no, that's not our forte, and that's not what we're here about. But if they're looking at legislation that affects agriculture and some things like that, we may get into that sometime. But
absolutely,
we're very fortunate. We've had good reps and senators and reps and things that understand and appreciate it. I know Representative Copeland really understands and appreciates agriculture in his area. And Senator Brown, of course, is a cattle producer himself. His dad was a veterinarian.
Dad was vet. You bet.
His ag roots run very deep, so we've been very, very fortunate in that. So anyway, that's what we're doing. I'm back in the saddle again. And
yes, you are. Well, we appreciate Brother Darrell coming in and enlightening us a little bit on what's going on with the South Central Regional Stockyards, and give you maybe just a foundation of what we're going to be kind of talking about for the next, well, who knows how long. The last show lasted a lot longer than I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
But, but we really...
This one lasts twice as long.
Well,
if it does,
that would be
fantastic. If it would last twice as long, let's see, that'd be at least 30 years. So I'd be about 94 or 5 when I finally get it.
You can make it in, so I guess so can I.
We'll do her, Stan. We'll do her.
All right, buddy. Anyway, we really appreciate Darrell coming in, and we hope you're going to enjoy this program, because there's going to be some insights in there maybe you don't know a lot about, or maybe you're just getting into the cattle business, and you're going to learn. You're going to find out some things that maybe you just didn't know. And that's always the key, because you can always get better. You can always learn from other people, right?
Right. And if anybody, and again, as I said, if anybody, if they want an on-farm appraisal, I can get the guys from the Stockyards down here then, and we'll get on the farm. They actually were down yesterday looking at a friend of mine at his calves that he's going to be marketing here later in April. Again, we're going to be getting started on these fall-born runs of cattle about the middle of April here, moving on through, and some big runs of cattle through April and May. And most of those, we'll probably get them bigger runs through here May and the first part of June. And once it starts warming up and getting real hot, then some of that will back off. And people, if they wean those calves in, I'm debated whether I'm going to sell mine here. I may sell my calves right off the cows here in the middle, in part of May, or I may wean them and keep them around till July or August, depending on the situation. I got several other things going on. We'll just have to see. But the prices like they are this time of year, I don't know. I'll probably get them vaccinated, and they'll be selling as value-added, but they may sell as unweaned calves there later.
And if people have any questions about that, the value-added, getting vaccinations, the positives, negatives, if there's any questions you have from hearing Darrell talk about it, he can enlighten you a little bit on that himself. And if there's something he doesn't know, he knows the right people that does have that answer.
If you don't have the answers, we'll get them to you.
That's right.
Yep.
There you go, sir.
So
thanks again for coming in.
You bet. And we'll plan on trying to be back here about this April 14th, I think it is.
That sounds like a winner to me, my friend.
Real good.
All right. We want to thank Darrell for coming in. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend.